I thought I'd start my sermon today with a few quotes from a very wise young woman named Anne Frank. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. What is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent it from happening again. I don't think all of the misery, I don't think of all the misery, but of the beauty that still remains. Whoever is happy will make others happy too. Some wise words from a young woman whose life was not easy. And so, as I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today, I have a tendency to just kind of feel sort of what's going on in the world and in myself and the world around me. And I I tend to create my sermons from there. And I don't, is there echoing? Cynthia, can you turn this down just a little bit? How is that? Is that a little better? Okay. Am I echoing on Zoom? No, okay. So I was talking to a congregant today, I mean, not today, this week, and she was kind of she's been going through kind of a hard time, and she was just down. And I was reminded of a really wonderful Facebook meme I saw a few years ago, and it was of this caterpillar turning into a butterfly and then in the cocoon. And I may be totally making this up, but anyways, there was some caption that kind of said something to the extent of when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, they just become a thing of mush and goo, and then they come out and they slowly transform into the butterfly that they've become. But point, there's that in between point of the caterpillar literally becoming goop. And then somehow that goop transforms into something else entirely and something really beautiful. And so when I was thinking of my sermon title, I was asking Maya, I'm like, is goop even a word? And I don't know if goop is a word. And so then I was like, well, should it be goo? And then I was like, well, is goo a word? And so I ended up with, what did I call it? Slogging through the goop of life. So if 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 we don't have a word for goop, we've now created a word called goop. And I think it's just a good reminder that life has its ebbs and flows. It has its ups and its downs. And there are very few people who can go through an entire lifetime up here with the highs. It's hard to live a life only with the highs. We ebb and we flow. And sometimes when we are ebbing or flowing, it can feel really difficult. It can be really hard. And we can literally feel like we're goo. We can look we can look back at where we've been and who we've been, and we think that's not who I am anymore. But then we're looking over here to where who we might become, and we say I don't even have a concept. I don't even have a vision. I don't even have a version of who that might be, because we're right here in the middle, and that middle can be really scary, and it can feel almost a little bit hopeless if you know where you've been and you know you can't go back. Even if you wanted to go back, sometimes we can't go back. And a lot of times we don't want to go back, but we don't have a clear vision of where we're going or what our future is going to look like, or even what we want our future to look like. And so we can just be stuck. But here's the good thing. Here's the thing to remember is that we don't get stuck forever. I don't think any of us have been at a place in our lives where we get stuck forever, right? It's kind of not possible. Like, how many of us, thinking back, maybe let's say seventh grade, and maybe in seventh grade, things weren't as great as they could be in seventh or eighth grade, and we're just like stuck. Well, look around. None of us are still in seventh grade, even if we wanted to. And then we progressed to high school, and maybe we loved high school. Maybe we didn't, but none of us are stuck in high school. Life moves on. And so then the question becomes, if life is going to move on anyways, what do we do with it? And that can be hard. But I think it's okay if you're at a place in your life where, and it might not be, for some of us it might be like, I've been feeling like this for a few years. For some of us it might just be like, this week was hard. For some of us it's kind of a daily cycle. It doesn't matter the time frame, but I'm sure all of us have had points in time where we kind of feel, I'm going to make up a word, where we kind of feel goopy, right? Here's the thing though, if you are feeling goopy, it's okay. Allow yourself to feel goopy, because with the goop comes the forward movement, even if it's slow. And with that forward movement comes the transformation. And sometimes that transformation comes out and turns into something that you never would have expected in your life. And we tend to be a culture that doesn't always know how or want to sit in the pain. Sometimes we don't want to sit with the grief. We just want to rush through the grief, because we tell ourselves, if I rush through the grief, then I'm not going to feel the grief. And I don't want to feel the grief because what I'm feeling right now does not feel good. But the problem is, with the process of grieving or moving through life, it doesn't matter if you're going fast, you're just running away from those feelings that are still there. And unfortunately, and most of us have been alive long enough to recognize this too, it doesn't matter how fast you flee, those feelings, those emotions, that grief, it catches up with you. Even if it takes a year or even if it takes a decade, it catches up with you because it was always there, just waiting to be processed. But if you allow yourself to take the time to move into that feeling of sludge, of grief, of loneliness, of depression, or whatever, if you allow yourself to feel it, you allow yourself to sit with it, you don't pretend it's not there because it's there anyways. You acknowledge it. You can let it move in you. You let it move through you. That movement is what transforms you. And we come out on the other side. And I promise you, we always come out on the other side. It's just that sometimes when we're in the middle of it, we don't think there is another side. Another analogy that I've used with people over the years, I was working a few years ago with a woman who was going through a very painful divorce and life transition. And the analogy or the metaphor that she used was she was going through this tunnel, right? And if you're going through a long enough tunnel, what happens is that you get halfway there and there's no light behind you and there's no light in front of you. And that can feel like such a scary and dark place. And what I had to remind her was that there's always an exit to the tunnel. You just have to keep going. If you stop in the middle of the tunnel, there is going to be darkness all around you. And sometimes what happens if somebody that you care about is in that tunnel and there's the darkness behind, there's the darkness in front, and you're in a place where you have a larger vision and you can see the light, sometimes we need to be the people that can just remind each other, you're in the tunnel, but there's light on this end. There's light on this end. You just have to keep moving through it. And you don't get to the light on the other side if you don't enter the tunnel. If you don't leave this behind, you don't get over here. If the caterpillar doesn't go into its cocoon and turn into goop, it's not going to come out as the butterfly. And so when we are going through those ebbs and flows in our life, it's just a good reminder that that's what life is. Life is an ebb and a flow. And it's okay to recognize the grief. It's okay to recognize the pain. It's okay to withdraw from the world and sit with the grief and the pain. And I quote my friend Scott Hogue a lot. He's a Hope West chaplain. And we were talking the other day, and I didn't realize it, but he had been invited to help officiate or do the memorial service for some of the firefighters that were killed about a month ago. And he's been a chaplain for a long time. And he was talking about the prayer that he was asked to give. And I asked him, I think somebody asked him, well, did you write it down ahead of time? And here's what he said, and this is from somebody that just has that life experience and that wisdom. He said, no, I didn't write anything ahead of time. He said, I sat and took in all of the pain that I was hearing. I sat with it. I took it all in. I felt it. I listened to it. And then he stood up and prayed. Sometimes we just have to be with something. And I've said this before, but sometimes people will come to me and I'll say, well, have you allowed yourself to cry? And they will say, no, I I'm scared. I've heard this more than once, right? I'm scared that if I start crying, I'm never going to stop. And that is a real fear because the pain can feel so intense and so deep that if I actually allow what's going on with me, I'm never going to stop. And what I like to say is I've never met anybody who started crying and never stopped. Sometimes the tears, the grief, the pain, it just needs to move through us so that we can transform it, so that we can be transformed, so that we can move forward. But if we just put up a block, we pretend it isn't there, or we try to outrun it through leaving a relationship or just moving or whatever. If we're outrunning whatever it is that's actually inside of us, first of all, you can't outrun something that's inside of you because it's going to show up with you wherever you go, no matter how fast you're going. But it's always going to show back up when it's ready, when you're ready at a different time. And eventually you're going to have to move through it. And sometimes what we can do, and this is true, sometimes something is going on in our life and we just think, I can't deal with this right now. It's too much. And so then it says, if it had a personality, it would say, okay, I'm not going anywhere, but I'll kind of go into the recess of your mind. I'll go into the recess of your life, and I'm going to show back up in your life 30 years later when you've totally forgotten about me. Because now you're 30 years older, you're 30 years wiser, you're 30 years more mature, and now you can look at this in a different way. But I'm still here and I still need to be transmuted. And so that's what happens to us too, right? When we're going through life and we might say to ourselves, I'm at the healthiest place I've ever been. So why all of a sudden am I having dreams or memories of this horrible thing that happened in high school? Why is that? I've moved through that. Why is that back in my life right now? And it's back in your life because maybe now you're at a place in your life where you can face it. And once we face it, then we transform it, transmute it, and we can let it go. And so that's just what I want to share today. I don't know if everybody was feeling goopy. I know this week I have felt goopy. It's hot, it's smoky, we've lost somebody we care about. Life can be hard. School is starting, there's new beginnings, but there's fears with the new beginnings. And so it's okay. It's okay to be honest with what's going on with us, with where we are, and a little bit of just kind of energy wisdom. Our bodies are energy, and we have these energy systems called chakras in our bodies. And Barbara Martin, who I study with, she would always say it's not about the situation in life. We're going to all go through situations. But she was able to see auras and chakras, and she would say if your chakra was moving clockwise, even if you're going through something really hard, but the energy is going in the right direction, you're going to be okay. It's when we have our energy going counterclockwise that we end up kind of getting stuck making decisions that hinder instead of help. And so if you're feeling goopy, because that's my new word, few things to remember. You're not going to stay in the goop forever. And there are a lot of beautiful butterflies that have gooped right along with you. If you allow yourself to cry, I promise you the tears will not last forever. And if you don't quite know what to do in any given situation, just ask yourself, this situation is hard. I don't have the wisdom, I don't have the clarity, but am I making sure that I'm energetically moving in a clockwise forward direction? Because if we keep moving forward, no matter how slowly, eventually we're going to start to see the glimmer of light on the other side of that tunnel. It's going to happen, but we have to remember that that light is there. And we can't just stop in the middle of the tunnel, because that is when we're surrounded by darkness. So if you feel like you're in a tunnel, keep moving. If you, hopefully, there are a few people in this room today that are like, no, I've had a great week. I am not goopy. That's great. Then you can be the light and the reminder for the people that are moving through that darkness that, yep, there is something to move through, and there is something on the other side, even if you don't know what it is, even if you don't know where it is, and even if you haven't been able to define it yet. We just have to have that hope and that trust that things will come together like they need to. And so I want to close today with a reading I shared a few years ago. I think it came out during COVID, but this is a message from the Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. As you move through these changing times, be easy on yourself and be easy on one another. You are at the beginning of something new. You are learning a new way of being. You will find that you are working less in the yang modes that you are used to. You will stop working so hard at getting from point A to point B the way you have in the past, but instead will spend more time experiencing yourself in the whole and your place in it. Instead of traveling to a goal out there, you will voyage deeper into yourself. Your mother's grandmother knew how to do this. Your ancestors from long ago knew how to do this. They knew the power of the feminine principle. And because you carry their DNA in your body, This wisdom and this way of being is within you. Call on it. Call it up. Invite your ancestors in. As the yang-based habits and the decaying institutions on our planet begin to crumble, look up. A breeze is stirring. Feel the sun on your wings. Let us sing together now in our till hymnal 101, 1011, Return Again.